Hi guys, Finch here down at the Quest Golf Academy, and I'm going to be starting a little bit of a mini series on grip and wrist angles within the golf swing. Now the grip and how you operate your hands and how you move your wrist angles whilst you're hitting the shot is incredibly important, and yet it is one of the most overlooked aspects of the golfing technique. The way that you move your grip, the way that you move your wrist angles has a direct correlation to what happens to the club face. And depending on where that club face is throughout the swing, the body will react according to what is happening generally with this club face. It really is that important. There are a number, and I've really lost count of the amount of lessons who have come here to the Quest Golf Academy who have had poor club face positions within their golf swing, and therefore they change the way that they use their technique, they change the whole way that they swing to try and compensate for that poor club face position. And in this first video, we're going to be looking at grip, some of the variations of the grip that you can use and what you will be seeing when you change to these types of grips. Then in the second video, we're going to be talking about wrist angles, how you move your wrists and some of the other positions that you may want to try to improve your shot shapes. And then we're going to be talking about differences for specialized shots, so some chips, some pitches and some other things in between. In this first video, we're going to be specifically looking at how you can place your hands on the club to give you alternate ball flies. Now, generally speaking, most people will benefit from a neutral to a slightly strong grip. There are only a few people who can benefit from a weaker grip, and that is when you start to talk about wrist angles, but we will get onto that in the second video. So what do we mean when we talk about a strong grip, a weak grip, a neutral grip? What are these different grips and what will they give you? Now, a neutral grip, and this is what you will tend to find most people will try to fit you into if you go for a lesson, and generally speaking it is probably the best grip for the most people, but there are variations which we will get into. With a neutral grip, what you generally want to be seeing when you put your hands on the club is looking down and seeing 2.5 knuckles on your left hand and the V created by the thumb and the forefinger pointing up towards your right shoulder. And then when you put your right hand on, you want it to sit just nicely on top with the left thumb going through the lifeline, and then looking down to see 1.5 knuckles on the right hand with the V of the forefinger and the thumb pointing pretty much straight up towards your right chest. But here is where perspective becomes very important, because I've lost count again in the number of lessons who come down here, look at their grip when they're in a set-up position and go, I can't see any knuckles, when from a face-on perspective, when I'm looking at them, I can see 3 or 4. So how you perceive where your grip is on the club is incredibly important. And therefore, when you're trying a new grip, try and make sure that you're holding the club out in front of you, so it is nice and horizontal to the ground. And then when you take your grip, look directly down onto the top of your hand like so, making sure that the club face to begin with is in a square position. If you take your grip and the club face is closed or open, obviously that's going to have an effect on what happens throughout the overall swing. Other factors that you need to bear in mind is when you're putting the grip on your left hand, you don't want it running too much up through the palm, and you don't want it running right through the base of the fingers. You want it running from the base of the little finger through the middle until it intersects the middle of the index. That allows you to wrap your left hand on top, and it doesn't allow that grip to fall too much over into the palm. So that is the general basis of a neutral grip. The next thing you want to really be having a look at when you start to change your grip or you start to improve your grip is pressure. Now, pressure with grips is sometimes individual, but there are some basic rules that you can follow. The main pressure points that you want to be seeing within your swing are the back 2 fingers of the left hand, and that helps improve hinge and control over the club face. And then you also want to be seeing a little bit of pressure just in the forefinger of the right hand, and also a little bit of pressure down with the left thumb as well, which will help the hinge with the right hand. So when you're getting set up, you've gone through that grip basis, and what this will allow you to do is keep the club face relatively neutral when you're hitting shots. Now, a neutral club face position will generally allow the ball to fly quite straight without much deviation, and that is certainly finished very close to my target line on the 18th at Carnoustie. Okay, I'm happy with that. That club face position there just allowed me to keep it relatively neutral throughout my swing and get quite a straight ball fly. The other thing that you would notice about my grip is I use an overlap grip. and that means the little finger on my right hand just sits in between the forefinger and the second finger on my left. And what that enables me to do is just link the hands together. Other variations of this is you have the interlock grip, so the one that Nicholas used, the one that Tiger uses, but you've also got the baseball and the 10-finger grip. I prefer the latter two, the first two should I say, and the latter, that baseball grip. It doesn't quite have the connection between the hands that I like to see, but it is a perfectly usable grip as well. But what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to use a very slight variation where I'm going to move my left hand to, rather than seeing 2.5 knuckles on my left hand, I'm going to move my grip over quite a long way so I can see 3.5, 4 knuckles on my left hand. Now what this does is it strengthens my grip. And what I mean by strengthening the grip is strengthening club face. When I come back to impact, as my palm starts to rotate inwards to face my right, that club face is now going to be closing. Now with a closed club face, if I was to use exactly the same swing that I did on my first shot, I will be hitting it a long way off to the left-hand side. So there's a couple things that I need to do here. I need to either change my path or change my alignment to compensate for the grip being very, very strong. What I'm also going to do with my right hand is I'm going to place it onto the side, so my right hand sits a little bit more underneath, and again this strengthens my club face position. So with my setup here, I'm going to be aiming probably around 15 to 20 yards right of where I was aiming with my first shot. I'm going to take that grip and I'm going to try and swing as normally as possible. But you can see there the amount of movement which is on that ball. So I was aiming a fair distance right there, but I couldn't compensate enough to get the ball starting on a straight line, or to get my ball starting right enough to curve back to target. Now you can also see there how much it's ran through. You can see how the flight was quite low, and this is all because that club face strengthening and pointing off to the left. Other factors you need to bear in mind when you grip it strongly is that to try and square that club face up, you need to get your hands a long way ahead of the ball at impact. The only problem is, as the club face becomes less in loft, so you get to your longer irons, that loft is going to be drastically reduced. And therefore you will tend to see people who grip on very strongly to the club, who show a lot of knuckles on the left hand and not many on the right, that they try and lean back through impact to help the ball up in the air. Now the opposite is true when you start to get onto people with slightly weaker grips. Now with a weaker grip on my left hand, I'd be looking down from this position and only really seeing one knuckle on my left hand with the V pointing up towards the middle of my chest, and that right hand sitting a long way on top. Now what this will do as my palms come in to face each other, it drastically weakens the club face position. So it opens it up and gets it pointing off to the right hand side. And the compensations that I would have to make within my swing are exactly the opposite. So I'd have to open up my body quite a lot and expect for the fact that the ball flight is going to be a little bit higher with a little bit more fade. So on this shot, I'm going to be aiming my body quite a long way off to the left as I weaken my grip quite noticeably, and throughout the swing the club face I know is going to be open, so I'm going to have to aim a little bit further off to the left, try and make my swing as normal as possible. No chance of keeping that one near the target, and that is curved a long way off to the right hand side. At least it's not got in the water. Let's have a little bit of a look and just see within the details of what we've captured on the Foresight software there with the GC Quad exactly what has happened at impact with the changes in those grips. So I've pulled up the data of those 3 shots. Now I could hit a lot more shots, you know, I could do lots of different variations of these grips, but the findings that we've got from those 3 shots are really quite representative of what you will find. Now you'll notice here that the ball speeds differ. So my first shot here, 116 miles an hour of ball speed, what I would expect for a nice smooth 7-iron. Then we go on to 118, so it jumps with the stronger grip, and then it drops down to 108 as I weaken my grip. The launch angles correspondingly change. So 15 degrees of launch with the first shot, 13 degrees of launch, so very low with the launch on the second shot, and then up to 20 degrees with the third shot. So that's the change in that club face maneuvering around as the grip changes, and my swing having to alter as a result. So the backspin increases the more the face was open there as well, because there's been more loft which has been added, and I've had that descending angle of attack. The spin numbers there you can see change quite considerably as well, as does the descent angle. So you notice there I've got 44 degrees of descent angle with my normal shot, then it goes down to 40 with the strong grip, and then up to 48 as I get onto the weaker grip. The offline there you can see, so very straight with my first shot, then 17 yards left and then 19 yards right with the strong and then the weak grip. The peak heights you can see change as well, 27 with the normal, 24 with the strong grip, and 30 with the weak grip. But just look at the differences in the carry and then the total yardages. 161 carry with my normal grip, 163 carry with the strong grip, and then 141 with the weak grip. And you'll also notice the total distances, 10 yards further with the stronger grip, 33 yards of difference between the strong grip and the weak grip. So we switch on to the club data here, and you will see big differences. Now, because of the way that I had to alter myself to try and cope with the grip, you'll notice that my normal path, so slightly out to in, just favouring a little bit of a fade ball fly normally with myself, and then I go big in to out as I try and draw the ball back with the strong grip, and then 5.3 out to in across the target line with that weak grip as I try and control club face. We then go on to how that face is related to what I'm doing within my path. You'll notice how my face is closed when I swing into out because of that strong grip, and also how it's open in relation to my path when I have that very weak grip. Right guys, so that's the analysis of those three shots and exactly what happened when I changed my club face position. And you've got to be asking yourself was when the last time was when you checked your grip. When was the last time you actually went for a lesson just solely focused on what you're doing with your hand position and what that does to your club face. Now we're also going to be looking at wrist angles as well and how they can contribute to what we're seeing with the club face, but the grip is the key starting point to try and alter technique. So remember, club face position will alter ball flight, it will alter trajectory, it will alter spins and distance. So a neutral grip will allow you that control, whilst the other ones are useful in some areas of your game, and I certainly use stronger and weaker grips when I'm playing to different effects, but they will all have an impact on overall ball flight. Right guys, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you've learned something from this video. Please comment below if you've enjoyed this. Please comment below, let me know what you think. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow me on my other social media platforms as well, and we'll see you down here next time for another video.